Are you? Yes.
Got it. Got it. I think that's right. Okay.
Yep.
Am I in the right place here?
You
Can you
are
see?
definitely in the right place.
Okay,
Thank you
good.
so much for joining us this evening.
Yeah, it's fun. I have only done a few Zooms ever, so I'm not very good at this, but I haven't done it in over a year now. So anyway, here I am. My husband helped me get it going, right? I hope.
The joys of technology, right?
Yeah, I'm not much of a technical person, unfortunately, but
Well, we'll take advantage of what we can get on these things, and because we
yeah.
do appreciate you
It's
joining us and being
Thank
able to actually see you, because you've called into our book clubs before, but now this time with video.
I'll get back in the hang of it again once I start doing it. But it's sort of like, it's not that, it's kind of tricky. I mean, if you don't do it all the time, and this is a different machine. I had another house, and I live in Prescott, Arizona part of the year, and I had it all set up there, but here I don't. I'm back in Montana, so it's kind of different here to try to make it work. It's a little trickier. So.
Well, some of us are longtime readers of yours, but then there's others that are still kind of some newbies. So can we start off, just tell us about yourself and how did you get into writing?
Well, I've been at it for so long. I started like before I was 40. I've written 80 books. So, I've been at it forever. Nora Roberts and Heather Gray are probably the only two people who have written more books, although any more people write more. The younger girls do. But, really when we started out, those two guys, they really wrote a lot of books, more than I ever did. But I've kind of kept going along, and a lot of people dropped out of the wayside, where I've just kept plugging along. So a lot of books, and a lot of different publishers I've worked for since I started, and I published, like my first book came out like 88. I hate to say that, was way back, and then I just kept plowing along, and I'd get in bad situations like every writer, I'd lose my publisher, they'd go out of business, I'd have to go start find another one, I'd be freaking out. And then, my husband and I both wrote for a living, so we got broke. I mean, we had money, we didn't have money, just depended on, if our books were selling or not selling. So, the usual thing that people go through as an early writer, I think. I went through all of that stuff. I've been lucky to have certain companies. I like working with Kensington. They're my favorite of all the publishers I've worked for. They treat you really nice. In fact, they sent me flowers for my birthday yesterday, which is, really nice. So,
well, happy birthday.
Thank you.
I didn't realize we were timing it around that.
Yeah, thank you. So what else? You said that's basically it for me. I have two houses. I'm fortunate about that. I live in Prescott, Arizona part of the year. Montana is my main place I live. And I've been up here since April 1st, but it's been horrible weather. Everybody tell them about their weather, and ours has just been horrible till today. Today's the first decent day.
Mm-hmm.
We had not one piece of sunshine since April 1st, and it's now mid-June. Not one day.
Wow.
That is so bad. I mean, that's unusual, but anyway, but you can say, well, it's good for writing, but it's really not, because you just kind of get depressed. You don't want to do,
Mm-hmm.
You need something to kind of pep you up and get you going.
Well, what do you usually do to get you into that writing mood then, especially if you're not able to go out or have those distractions?
Well, you know what? As I was in real estate. So, when you're in real estate, nobody pays you, and you have to be a really good self-motivator. And that really worked for me all my life, really, because I'd have to get up, whether I had a publisher, whether I had money, didn't matter. I knew if I didn't get up and go to work, it wasn't going to matter, because you just go, it's like a rabbit hole, just go down deeper and deeper and deeper. So I always had a schedule, and I've really stuck to it until the last couple of months I got out of it. But I'm getting back to where, but it's unusual for me not to just work by a schedule. Get up, a couple hours to get ready in the morning, and then do some social media, and then work. So that's what I usually do. Then I had a little problem with books. In other words, I've never had that. I've always been able to think of what I wanted to write, and I knew well ahead. But this time I had a harder time. I kind of got in a weird place, and I wrote a little bit of one book. No, I don't think I want to do that. Wrote a little bit. No, I don't think I want to do that. And that's unusual for me, because I usually have very logical, I got to do that. That's the next book in line for that. But this time I decided to get through these next two, The Last Mile, which I did love writing. That was a fun book for me to write. And then I wrote the last one, the end of that, The Three Brothers. So then I was searching. So now I'm kind of working towards getting that lined out. That's my life right now.
Well, you said, that you would work on a book and then, oh, I'm not really feeling that one. And you kind of put it aside. And
Not
what do
normal
you
for me.
do in those cases? I
I've
mean,
never
do
done
you
it before. It's
leave
totally
it? Do
scares the
you
heck out of me,
come
really,
back
to know
or?
the truth. Yeah, sure.
Mhm.
Because I always think, well, I know my next one. I usually know two ahead. I'm thinking, well, I got to write, I want to write the third brother, and then I need to get, and I had another guy that I wanted to write in this series, but I just felt, I don't know, I just felt like I needed a change. So I'm kind of aiming another direction, but we'll see. I mean, I may have to go back, or maybe I'll do another one and then I'll go back and do some more of those. But right now I've got the three brothers done. Last Mile's the middle brother, and then Edge Logan, he's the third brother, and he's out at the end of October. So that'll be pretty well wound up by the end of the year.
And what's the title of that one then?
One
out in
Last
October?
Chance.
One Last Chance.
This
Okay.
is the Last Mile, and then One Last Chance is Edge Logan. So I got Gage on this one and Edge. I kind of tend to go for men. I start with men, and then I go generally, not always, but I generally start with men, and then because I'm more plot driven. I'm a plot oriented author. So if I'm thinking of the plot, I'm thinking how the guy's going to be in the plot, and then I have to find the woman that can fit into the plot. No, the right person for him. It's easier for me to find a woman for him than it is a man for her for some reason. I don't know why. I have no idea, but just seems like that's how it works out most of the time. Anyway.
And how does the plot come to you? Is it something do you see it kind of as an action movie? Is it?
Yeah, yes, I'm a big, in fact, I couldn't believe nobody there mentioned they were watching Reacher. That must be old news.
Oh no, that Reacher's awesome. Yeah, we talked about that earlier.
I figured that was just old news series. Yeah, because that was the most amazing. He looks like, the guys in our books, right? And so I thought, oh my God. But yeah, you watch something like that and you're thinking, it can give you an idea. I get them everywhere though, different things. Usually from researching. I'll be researching one thing, or like in the book on this one, Edge Logan, he had certain things about him that drove the next story. In other words, I knew he was a military guy because he dropped out of the military. In this book, he drops out of the youngest brother. He gets punted actually out of the service. So he's got it. He needed a story that would involve some of his friends that were military guys. I knew it was going to be in that direction. So the story itself led me there. It usually kind of leads you there, except for the first one. And that one's always tricky because you don't have anything to, base it on. I have no idea where they really come from, truthfully, though. They just get in your head. And then you have to really work at them to flesh it out. You sort of have this little idea. But the next thing you know, it has to be a big idea to fill up all those pages. But it can't just be a little idea,
How did you first get into the suspense aspect of writing? Because I first knew you as a historical romance. Right. So I read all of the Westerns and the medieval and the Regency. Oh, wow. I've read the Necklace series multiple times along with the Bride series.
Well, thank you. That's great.
But of course, you've transitioned into suspense over the last several years. So what really drove that change, and how did you have to adjust to?
What's interesting, you read a lot of my historicals, that every one of those was a suspense or a mystery or a murder mystery or everything. They always were suspense. They never were a romance, really. They were always a romance, but there was really a pretty big plot. A lot of mystery, mayhem, murder, and all that was always in them. So, and they got more so. They didn't really start, although even my first book, they were in the Wild West, and they were facing Indians, and, it was a lot of action even in those books. So it was pretty easy because you're really just going from the plots that you had there to modern. It was just a setting more than anything, if you think about it. The men were pretty similar. I mean, the men, and the kind of men I like to write about they're alpha men, alpha males. So they had those kind of already thoughts, they think like a guy, a caveman thinkers, I guess you can say that. But they kind of thought they're kind of caveman style guys anyway. So that was, it wasn't too hard to transition from a guy that had a Victorian suit on to one that was, wearing jeans and a t-shirt. So that was, their mind was not that far off. Oh, crazy.
And I also think it's interesting that you say that it's the male characters that come to you first. And when there's such alpha heroes with that, and the women are coming secondary, because you still have really strong women characters with that. And I think which differs a lot of your books from, because, especially with The Last Mile, initially I'm thinking, oh, it's almost like kind of a dirt pit and the treasure hunting, but you have a much stronger woman, right?
she was talking about Raiders of the Lost Ark, and I loved that movie too. So I was listening to you guys talking about it, and you know, I wanted to do a treasure book. That was one of them. I had the idea. I wanted to do a treasure hunt. So I had that in my head. I want to do a treasure hunt. I got to find a place that they could be looking for a treasure. And I like to do stuff that's kind of based on a thread of reality. And I knew, so when I was digging around, I went to the world's great treasures and then what weren't found, you know, and I was digging through all the information, and that was kind of the deal, really, was just, you know. So anyway, I ran across the treasure that we go after, but that was a real treasure, you know, that was lost, the lost Dutchman mine. So anyway, you know, I like to do that. So yeah, the men though, I guess we all like men, maybe, you know, so for me to start with that, it was easier for me. But yeah, I think maybe because the men are so strong, you can't have a wimpy woman, because they wouldn't be the guys wouldn't be attracted to them. I think that's part of the problem. I mean, some men might be, and I've probably had some of those guys that where a woman was really needy, but she picked a guy who really needed to be needed, I guess you'd say, right? Because yeah, if you have a woman that's not as strong, but the guy really needs to be that kind of guy, protective type, then you could pair him up. But I like to pair him up, you know. So like Gage, he needed a pretty strong woman to make it, especially on the trip they were on. She couldn't be a wimp, that's for sure. No.
Well, and it kicks off with the bang. I mean, she's already taking care of somebody breaking into the house and, you know, trying to snuff her out there initially.
Yeah. Yeah. It was an interesting story. That one kept me entertained as I wrote it. I had so much research on it because I went to the Superstition Mountains. I don't always get to go where I'm writing about, but I did go to the Superstitions because I knew it was going to be, I thought, I don't think I can just fake this. It's too unique of a place. So that's why I went there. I thought, I'm going to go to the Superstitions and see what it's like. And I was glad I did, because it was nothing. It's not like any place I've ever been, really. And I've been a lot of places, but that one is just, it's so unique. It's so hostile. It's a violent place, violent, and nature, the natural element of it is violent and hostile, really. You know, you don't want to get out of your car. You're like looking at the ground going, what is that stuff down there? Is it scorpions and snakes and not good, you know? So yeah.
Well, by visiting the location, then what are you doing to capture that? Is it that you're just getting the vibes? Are you also taking photographs that you can reference later? Are you taking notes while you're there and then trying to incorporate it? Yeah. Or
I don't do as much with, in this case, we went to talk to the outfitters that were, that actually pack into the Superstitions. It was an older guy, and he was a writer. And I had looked him up online because he was going in kind of the way I wanted to go in, if I were in my head. And so I wanted to talk to these, and I read that he was a writer, and he actually written some books. I thought, okay, that's cool. So we just parked and we went down there, and he was there, and we said, we're writers. I'm writing, you know, a story about this, and you've written. And he had his books for sale. We bought some of his books, and of course he had a lot of description about what it was like. I had seen it by then, but it was good to have the books to kind of get your head around it. And then I read a lot of books on the Superstition Mountains themselves, you know, what they look like, and anything that would, in fact, they had a TV series for a very short time where these guys were treasure hunting, and they were filming as they did it. But the guy told me, he said it was such a fake deal. He said they would go in the same place week after week, but they'd make it look like a new place. But really, he said it was like 4 blocks in the mountain. They went in there like they made it sound like they were way back in there. No, he said it was kind of a con deal, but you still kind of got, you know, thinking about it, because you're watching them going through all the rocks and doing all the stuff in this TV show. So anyway, anything I can put in my head. I like to be visual. I like to visualize it as much as I can. Even reading it, I like pictures. If I can get a picture, I'm real happy. But, you know.
And by using real world settings like that, is there a greater accountability when you're writing contemporary stories, because people could actually also go there and compare?
Yes.
Versus
I believe me, I tried to get it right.
Which have
I had all the topo maps out and everything, and I was looking at the trails. I mean, I'm on Google Earth. I'm trying to get where they're going in a real way. Even I talk about this wagon road, that's really there. And a lot of it was speculation. Like this wagon road really could have been used by the Peralta family, which were the original Spanish people that were in there looking for gold. And so it was really true. A lot of it's true. I mix in fake stuff, you know, but it's real. I try to get it as close as I can you know, to the real thing. In fact, the Mexico part of that book is, again, I was all over I learned so much when I was down, because I'd never been in that area. And I was so shocked at how much the Mayans are still there. I mean, they speak Mayan down in there, and they have all the street names are in Mayan. I thought that was a sort of a dead language, but apparently not. So you really do learn a lot as you're doing this stuff. You know, but
what's the most interesting thing that you learned out of the research for this book that you did not get a chance to put into it?
Tons, because really you don't want to do that. You're not really trying to. I think you want to educate people in a very minor way. I think I'd rather have them just to get in the story and enjoy the story. And if they happen to catch on to some new stuff like I did when I was reading it, you know, reading the research, I thought, oh my gosh, that's a neat town, Merida. That looked like a fantastic place, an old colonial Mexican. It was very interesting. So, you know, I'd rather have them kind of just see it and in their head and kind of think, wow, that's neat, or learn a few facts, you know, not too much. I don't get too much wrong. I get some things wrong. You almost can't get it perfect, but you know, I got all the gold. I figured out the ounces. I figured the size of it. I figured how much gold was in that much of a bar. I multiplied it by X amount. I did like math and stuff, you know, because you got to get, how much could I fit in the back of a Jeep? I mean, you know, it's like drawing little diagrams, you know, of a bar. Gold bar is this big and that long and weighs this many pounds. How much tire can you hold on your tire pressures? I didn't want to get that wrong. I put the gold in the back. I think bricks blows the tires out. You know, so it's real heavy. You know, they go. So I figured it out. Two cars could do it. 2 trucks, 2 cars. And then I had to get a different airplane because the airplane I planned to put it on couldn't carry that load. So, you know, if you got to be on top of your game, telling you, or someone's going to say, what are you, dummy? You couldn't put that much gold even a nice, it was a Gulfstream or something, and it wouldn't do it. And those are $40 million airplanes. Yeah. And it wouldn't hold that much weight. So but you know, I've gotten to where if it sounds logical, don't believe it. It's still not going to make sure, because you could be wrong so easily, so easy. So I always try to think, wait a minute, could that work or not work? You know? So
yeah, we've talked before in other book clubs where sometimes those little things will just pull people out of the story. Yeah. Because you know that's just impossible. Like, I don't think the setting or equipment or something like that.
One of the girls I read really do a lot of research. They do more than I do, and I do a lot. And I'm thinking, geez, how the heck do they really get a deep stuff? They do CIA stuff and really some heavy duty stuff. And I think, but then some of them, they don't even need it, and they still make a good story. So they have their different techniques. You know what I mean? Not everybody has to do that much research. They can just be more in their own head. And I think if they spin it right, the reader's just okay with it. I don't think they think, wow, she didn't get that right. I think it's better if you do get it right, but I don't think you necessarily have to be that. Do you know what I mean? You don't have to be. Your talent might be elsewhere in terms of the characterization, stuff like that. I just read Nightworks, Nora Roberts. That book, what she does that I could never do, she does these deep dives into character. I mean, she's got 30% of the book is about this guy, and you can't turn, it's really, you have to be there. It's not my normal, I wouldn't normally like that. I was thinking, wow, that's too much information. No, but you got into it and it was great. But that's her strength, you know, pulling you into this background of this person. That's not my strength. I couldn't think of all that stuff on my best day. I'm too busy. I'm always trying to get forward. What's going to happen next kind of thing. I'm not worried about the background. So.
Well, and you mentioned earlier, and having known that your husband is also a writer. Right. And you guys have collaborated on a book before also.
We did one book ever. And he wanted to do it first. Then I didn't want to do it. So then he talks me into doing it. Then he didn't want to do it. He said, no, we're going to kill each other. So we only did one. It was right early in our career. So we never did do it anymore. So he writes Westerns and he does some modern day stuff, but he's really got more of a reputation for Westerns. He's a really good researcher though. He doesn't get stuff wrong very often.
Do you guys bounce things off of each other?
He would never ask me. I would, but in fact, I try to trap him in the car because we have a 20-minute ride to town. And I'm like, I got to work. In fact, today I was like, I am stuck on this thing with these tunnels. I'm trying to figure out what to do with these tunnels. I thought they were 1860 tunnels, but they don't work. They got to be 1780 tunnels. And I got to link them to modern tunnels. And, you know, I was just going crazy. I was hoping he'd come up with some kind of, some plotting, but yeah, and he's usually pretty good at that. He'll say, well, what about this or that? But no, I leave him alone. He actually, give him a bone here. He made a movie last year, and it was a low budget film. It's on Amazon for $1.99. It's called Eye for Eye. It's a Western, but it's fun. I mean, I will not say it's the best Western you ever saw. It's got good music, got a handsome star. So you might have fun. $1.99, Amazon, Eye for Eye. There you go. That's his big, he gets a plug. A plug. We had fun doing that though as a couple.
Cool. Great.
I helped him. I didn't do much. I did the food and the clothes, some of the clothes, costume. That was it. He did all the hard work.
Well, Kat, I want to transition over to what we call our fresh fiction facts. A couple of quick questions, things that come to the top of your head. Just some fun things. Okay.
Okay.
So what luxury item can you absolutely not live without?
Luxury item. Something I already have or want.
Either way.
My ring is my big luxury item that I love. It's my wedding ring.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really pretty, you can see it. It's really pretty. Anyway, I love that thing. That's my kind of personal prize. But that's that other luxury things. I like luxury, anything. I like hotels. I like restaurants, good food, nice wine, that kind of stuff.
How do you celebrate a new release?
You know, I used to have a bottle of champagne, and I didn't do it for a new release. I did if I could hit the bestseller list. That was my big deal. And then I got, and once I started hitting it regularly, it was kind of cool because I only had a book out ever so often. Then I actually switched back over. I thought I'd rather have a bottle of Rombauer. And some of the girls drink white wine. They probably know about Rombauer. It's one of the great white wines. It's not cheap, but it's not ridiculous, you know. So that's kind of my treat I usually have if I have a new release or hit one of the lists or whatever. I've done it so many times now. It's kind of, you should celebrate it more, but you kind of you're thinking, what I got to do tomorrow for my, you know what I mean, for the book I'm on. So anyway.
Going back to your study of history, what era would you most want to live in if you subtract like modern convenience type needs?
I did love the Victorian. I was I've always been fascinated. I actually wrote more Regencies than I did Victorian, but I like that Victorian period. England, you have to be one of the elites in order to enjoy it.
Right.
Maybe you could be a tavern maid or something. Be all right. I don't know. It would depend. Dairy maid. I don't know. I want to go see Downton Abbey. You know, that's just, I saw it on TV. Maybe we can, early release on TV. I might have to fork up the $20 for it. Yeah, but that was a nice time frame, the 20s.
If you suddenly found yourself stranded on a desert island, what 3 things would you have to have?
Probably eyebrow pencil, food and water, I guess. Yeah, I'd have to have my eyebrow pencil and little, I guess you should have sunscreen. 3 things, I don't know. I'd have food, water, I guess, and shelter. That's the practical stuff, right? Nobody ever says that, do they?
What youthful activity do you wish you could still do?
Oh, that's easy. Snow ski.
Oh,
I had to quit snow skiing because I was afraid I'd break a bone. For a while, I didn't have insurance. You know, nobody had insurance ever doing. Now I've got insurance, but I've missed so many years, it would be too hard for me to go back. But I love snow skiing now, and water skiing I like too. I like those kind of things. Packing in, horseback. I like all that stuff. Used to do it all.
Mm-hmm.
Now, luxury hotel. That's my idea of camping now.
What do you own a ridiculous amount of?
Books. I have a lot of books of my own, but mostly my own books because I didn't buy them. They send them to you by the cases, and I have 3 storage rooms full. I mean, I can't get rid of them fast enough. I wish.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So that's what I have a ridiculous amount of.
Now, do you also keep a collection of them in other languages? Or do you mostly have your English version?
Yes, I had I mean, they would send me a case of books in Russian, let's say, or anything. I mean, everything. God, French, Italian, German. I have a lot of books in Germany. So you had, and I actually told them the other day, I said, please don't send me any more reissues, because they will reissue a book. I already have the book, and then they'll send me another case or 2 of a reissue. And I got 50 books to get rid on it,
Oh, wow.
I know. So I just ran out of space for too many books, but I love books. So.
I mean, I understand the reissues, but new covers for a long time were the bane of my existence. It's like, no, I read this, but it's a new cover. Wait, Did I read this? I don't know. Where do I go?
Yeah. You need lists, that's for sure. And I don't have good enough lists, and I try to do it on Amazon, but they don't have it it's pretty hard to, even on on your manager accounts and all that's hard on Kindle.
Mhm.
Still hard to tell what you've read and what you haven't read. Very
Yeah.
hard, unfortunately. Yeah. Bane of all of us. The girls up here too, I'm sure. Oh gosh.
What book world, yours or even another author's, would you most want to step into?
Oh, it'd have to be Nora Roberts. She has the best family life in her books, doesn't she? And great men, but these great family lives, you know, they own a pizza parlor and everybody in the family works in the pizza parlors. And I was thinking about it as I was reading this. Almost always her families in her books are just a really neat element. You know, if you wanted to step into some nice world, that'd be a good world, I guess, to step into.
If you couldn't be a writer, what would you do?
I've been asked that question many times, and I always say an astrophysicist, but I wasn't smart enough. But
Wow.
I'm fascinated with the stars, the planets, and all that stuff. So maybe if I had, thought about it when I was like 8 or 9, maybe I could have done that. Who knows? Can't say
So is
never.
that an additional hobby of yours? I mean, I would think also living in Montana, I mean, the gorgeous sky views and everything.
Get the clouds gone, we could see stars forever because we have beautiful, clear. We're 25 miles from town, nothing out here. So yeah, you can see stars. And Phoenix and Prescott's that way too, Arizona. You got the black night skies, beautiful. Yes, it's not a hobby, but it's an interest. And I read if an article comes up. I just saw yesterday where they got some message from outer space. Did you see that? It's pretty interesting. And and you're thinking, oh, I wonder what that was about. And Elon Musk, I followed the launches and all.
Oh yeah.
So I love all that stuff. Really fascinating. I did one UFO book years ago, and it was funny because it's called Season of Strangers. I did a ton of research. And the more I researched, the more scared I got. And the more research, the more convinced I was there was life out there. It was just, yeah. And actually that book, I had a lot of compliments. People either loved it or hated it because it was, for me, real different. But overall, it kind of caught up and people ended up really, they liked it once they kind of got past, well, she doesn't write this kind of stuff thing, So
I'm going to have to check that one out. That one got by me.
It's interesting. I mean, one of the guys in the movie, the guy stars in the movie Larry made, he said, I didn't know he ever read one of my books. He said, oh, I love that book you wrote, Season Stranger, that UFO book. Oh, I love that. I said, well, I didn't know you ever read one. He says, no, I love that kind of stuff. I really like that book. Oh, that's cool, So who knows? But it's interesting. I wanted to try it. I've written 2 ghost stories based on real incidents. And I'm thinking of writing another one. I have the story in my head and sometimes I can't get them out unless I write the book. So that's kind of floating around in there.
Do you keep those other ideas just kind of in a notebook, or does it just, like you said, just kind of float around in the back of your head? Or
get on them fast enough to where I don't have to wait too long. But something like that, I just been thinking about it. But then I started to do a little research on it. The more I researched it, the more I thought, oh my gosh, this is a wonderful story. I mean, it's scary and everything, but it's just one of those really compelling stories. And I thought I might have to write this. So I've been kind of I've been doing some research on it and fiddling around. We'll see how it goes.
What's your favorite writing fuel?
Writing
fuel. Is it coffee that keeps you going? A steady thing of...
That's a white one. No, I don't do that till after I'm done at the end of the day. No, my writing fuel. When I'm in writing, I'm writing, coffee, I guess, in the morning, and then maybe a couple of cookies and some tea or something. I like big meals, I like dinner. But I don't, during the middle of the day, I don't really care. I'm busy. So I'm afraid if I start, how you do, right? You get, well, I'll just have a few of these. And no, especially can't do it while you're typing. You can eat twice as much, I swear. I think because your brain you're just, yeah, I don't try not to do it when I'm eating. If I'm going to eat, I'll go and sit somewhere else. Don't sit here. And you need the break too, for your head and your body, more than anything, really.
Got to get up and move around. Definitely.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, Kat, before we move over to the questions from our readers, how can our readers stay in touch with you and follow your next releases?
If you go on my webpage, which is just katmartin.com, it says contact Kat, or I think it says on their sign for my newsletter. I was giving away, I had this neat little ghost story I wrote that I really wanted to write for. And somebody talked me into, they said, oh, we just need this little short story. And I had it in my head anyway. So I'll write it for you because I wanted to write it anyhow. So I've been putting it up there and letting people have it for free, but I'm not sure it still does it because I don't manage my webpage. But there's a contact Kat thing. And if you contact me, I'll always answer, by the way. And then I'll forward you to my fan list. And that has my newsletter, newsletter. And then I don't send them very often. I'm bad about it. But when we do have a new book out, we always try to send it out, and anything that's really coming up that's like a reissue or something, or Kindle. Once in a while, Kindle, they make deals all the time, but I never know about them until they're over about it. They'll say, oh, you can have so and so for $1.99. By the time I get to it, it's already back to $6 or whatever it is. But so that kind of stuff. But that's one way to do it, and the easy way, really, just my webpage.
Great.
I'm on Facebook, Kat Martin author. So if you ever want to go on there and drop me a note.
Okay. And you said the next book in the Blood Tie series is coming out in October, right?
October 31.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the end of October, but that's a one last chance. They've already got it up all over. It's got a good cover. They've been doing beautiful cover. That's behind you one.
Oh yeah.
Gorgeous cover.
Move over a little bit
Book
there.
is just
Yes.
stunning. I had a bunch of my signed books last night, and they were just stunning. They're stunning books. All three of that in that series. They've done a wonderful job on those. The third one's neat too. So hopefully they'll keep at it.
Well, Kat, thank you so much for joining us tonight. And the latest book, the Last Mile, is so much fun. I'm loving the treasure hunting aspect of it, and it's just hard to put down. And but stick around for some more questions with the rest of our readers. Okay.
Oh, great. Okay, sure, will do. Thank you. It's been a pleasure to be here. You guys you've been a wonderful interviewer. Oh, really nice job. Because I get nervous and you put me at ease. So.
Oh, don't be nervous. We're good. We're all good.
You did a nice job.